Riding Side Saddle, it's Tammy.
And Lisa.
We're back.
Hi there.
A couple of cousins.
Sitting in the recording studio, talking about things that cousins talk about.
Yeah.
And honestly, many other people talk about in their small corners of close friends.
Or they don't talk about.
And should.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or want to.
Right. Lisa's a digger, so she likes to dig underneath the surface. You know, most of us kind of float happily along the top. Lisa's like, let's take a look at what's underneath there. So
let's make you real uncomfortable today.
Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
So speaking of that.
Yeah, if you haven't left yet, because now you're scared off.
Right. So we are going to introduce a dear friend, Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi. Heather went to the same high school as I did and my husband did. And you really were more closely connected with Scott, my husband, throughout high school. But I have just come to learn really what a wonderful human Heather is. Aww. And the more I get to know Heather, the more I adore Heather.
That's going to make me cry.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yeah. Welcome to the recording studio.
Right. Within the first 30 seconds, she's crying. Yes,
again. Job well done.
We asked Heather. Well, Heather has been a supporting friend of Riding Side Saddle since the very beginning already. Yeah. If you have seen things posted on our Facebook page, pictures of us in cute little cowboy hats and giggling and
having tea.
I haven't even put those out there yet. But I plan to.
Spoiler alert.
Tea and whiskey. That is courtesy of Heather.
Yeah.
She had put a request out on Facebook. One of Heather's hobbies is photography. Yes. And through a class, I believe, right? You were looking for different subjects and photographing people was the topic of the subject of your learning at that point. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful intersection, right? We don't have a lot of money to be able to offer up for photography, but we're really trying to get ourselves out there from a podcast perspective. And how fun would it be? So Heather joined us, and we had a great evening.
That was so much fun.
It was lots of laughter and great pictures.
Yeah.
And so anyway, my point is, Heather and Riding Side Saddle have become closely connected, and we asked Heather way back then to if she was interested in being a guest, because just some of the really fascinating things that and you've experienced through your life. I'm not going to do you any justice in kind of describing you, describing your background. You're going to be more eloquent at that than I am. So just give us a little insight as to, what you've done in life and your experience, and who
you are.
Yeah.
Well, I am currently a motivational speaker. That's my current gig. Photography is like a part-time hobby thing that I do. And the motivational speaking part, if you look at my website, it describes me, I think, probably really well in all of the different aspects of me. So I am a licensed school bus driver.
Yeah? I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I am a lover,
right?
lover of vegetables, to vegetarian, almost vegan.
Okay.
I have a background in writing. I am an award-winning children's book author.
You are.
Wow.
I've just kind of done a whole bunch of stuff, and I am most proud of the accomplishment. I am a corporate America dropout.
Oh. That's something to be proud of, honestly.
It is.
I spent 20 years of my life working my way through corporate America, up the corporate ladder, doing everything I was supposed to do to try to get ahead and to try to get that big job that was going to, make me all kinds of money and
make you feel good about yourself.
Yes.
Make you successful.
Show you as
Make me successful.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And I left at the age of 46 and have not looked back.
Wow.
So,
nice work.
Congratulations. So your book, I have to share, I don't know if you remember, it's one of the first times that I had reached out to you personally and not through Scott. You had done a book signing in Eden, actually, and we went and visited there, and we purchased your book. And my youngest daughter, I don't know how old she was, maybe 8 or 9, somewhere in there. She was little, and she was going through speech therapy at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she chose your book to read as part of her therapy in school, and it was a really wonderful book to pick, right? Because it was about being unique and different and being okay with that. So she used that to practice day after day after day on her technique and her speech skills. And she had the opportunity to share it, to read it aloud in front of her class, and she beamed. Aww. She was so happy to be able to share that book, and it meant a great deal. And I reached out to you after that, of course, blubbering with my motherly self, saying, do you know what an impact you've had?
Oh, on this little girl.
Yeah.
On my little girl.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great story.
It's that journey is, I won't say it's done because I still get feedback on it, but we stopped selling the book in 2014, I think. And to this day, I still get notes on the Facebook page. I still get people sending me comments of, read this for this event or this child. It was, I think, just like a year ago, I had a girl who has some kind of very rare medical issue, and she chose to read the book for her spotlight in her association or something, and they did a video and sent it to me. I mean, it's just been phenomenal that, like, you still see those little ripples that are out there.
Ripples.
And that was probably one of the most impactful things I think that you ever said to me, Lisa, was that you have that ripple effect. Because I was very depressed about the book, that it didn't do as well as I wanted it to, and it didn't take off, and what I had the vision of it didn't come to fruition.
I get that.
And then you came along and said, but you don't understand the ripple. You don't. And that was like the first time I'd ever thought about ripple effect.
Yeah.
Went, oh my God, there is. You're right. There are just ripple effects to everything that we do.
100%. So I thank you for that, because that ripple was very large for my family.
That's wonderful.
That's
wonderful. Why we did it.
So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. So as the introduction stage here, I'm hearing a lot of shoulds when you're talking about corporate America and how you ended up there for 20 years. Loads of shoulds, and should is like, I don't know how many letters that word is, but I don't know, 6 or 7 letters. That is a dirty word.
Yeah.
It really is. And so that was one of the things that we were wanting to talk about is when you're stuck in a should, what happens? And how do you start to get yourself out?
And like so many of us, right?
Absolutely.
Because this should category is a real big bucket.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are in it.
Yeah.
In the therapy world, should is actually called out as what they call an automatic negative thought.
Oh, yes.
Because that's what it does to your brain. It automatically thinks, you are
You're not
worse
doing
off.
something that...
Yep, you're not as good as you could be.
Yes.
You're not taking the path that, is going to be the best for you. I mean, it just automatically puts you into that defensive mode of thinking that you're less than or you're not good enough.
Wow. I think of that even in terms of productivity. My body really needs to rest today, but I should be cleaning. I should be vacuuming. I should be doing something productive. I should be doing something that shows everybody, including myself, how valuable I am. But really, I just need to rest.
And now you feel bad.
And now I feel bad. So now I'm lazy, right? So that's where the negative talk starts. Well, if you weren't so lazy, you'd have had those dishes done already. If you weren't so lazy, you would have your laundry put away. If you weren't,
And then your rest becomes negative and you don't
now
actually
it's not
recuperate.
Right. Now it's not rest. Now I need more rest because I didn't get the rest when I needed the rest. Yeah. It's a dirty, dirty word.
Yes, it is. And it's the history of my life in corporate America. It's when I graduated from high school, I had a dream. I had a certain thing that I wanted to do, and I was talked out of doing that. And I went down that corporate path. And anybody that knows me at that point in my life, I was a very stubborn individual. So tell me I can't do something, and watch me.
Do it twice.
Do it. Right. And
hold my beer.
yes. And I had a manager at my first real job that told me that I couldn't be a leader, that I would never be in a leadership
no, you
position.
didn't.
I would
Watch
never
out.
advance. And yes, and I set out to prove him wrong.
Yes.
And I did. I spent 20 years trying to prove him wrong.
Oh, man.
Well, what I learned at the end of the 20 years is, God damn, he was right.
Oh.
I did not belong in a leadership position. I should not have gone where I went. But
Or perhaps didn't really want to.
No.
Right? Maybe that
really
wasn't
wasn't
the path
meant
that
for
you
you.
wanted, but because he said you couldn't, and you're
Yes.
like, fuck if I can't.
and once
I'll
he,
do it to my detriment.
Right.
Yes, I will. And I
Yeah.
will cut the nose off to spite my face anytime.
Yes,
But
right.
once he started that ball rolling, then everything after that became a should. Well, you should learn to be the trainer. You should then be a supervisor. You should go and get your degree. You should go get your master's degree. You should. And I just kept doing it because it was the next logical step.
Right.
So I filled my world with logic.
Right, because that
Oh.
path is everybody has what that path should look like for you, right? Well, you're
Yes.
here. Well, the path says the next best thing is this. So go ahead and chase after that. And then this is the step after that, and this is the step after that. And it becomes something of this isn't necessarily what I want, but like I'm being pushed down this path kind of because momentum perhaps, right? Like
Oh, it's momentum and it's life, because now all of a sudden I've got expenses and I've got
Yes.
a car payment and I've got a mortgage and I've got kids and I've got, so now all of a sudden I've built a life around my should that it can't just turn off.
I can't come
walk
out
away
of that.
from
Yeah,
because,
it's taken on a life of its own
Yes,
now.
I have responsibilities. And,
Yeah.
and
What am I
you
going to do? Be homeless?
Right,
What am I going to do?
right.
Not feed my kids?
I have people relying on me.
Yes, right.
Those things go through my head
Yes.
regularly. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So
Boy, all of that just feels so heavy. Like my chest hurts. Just thinking about all of the reasons why I should and I have to and I can't.
When the
Yeah.
reality is you can. If you're willing to change your life.
Well, now my throat is closing up. So thanks for that, Heather.
911. We are in the recording studio. We'll wave you down.
Change is hard though, right? And that's a big part of it.
Change
It's
is
so
very hard.
comfortable being in a place, even if you don't like where you are. It's familiar and it's comfortable.
Yes, better the devil I know than the one that I
That.
know.
Ooh, and it feels a lot like autopilot, right? Like this is the path I'm on. You're telling me that this is the next step and this is the next step. I guess I don't have to think about it too much. I'm just going to do it because you're telling me that that's the route I'm supposed to take. Yeah.
I can make this work. I just have to make it work for today. I can make it work. And then you get up the next day. I could make this work today. Doing what you've always done is easier than saying, today I'm going to stop and I'm going to do things different. I can't tell you how many years I've been in relationships because I can make this work today. When really I needed to end it.
Yes.
I spent 8 years in an abusive relationship
9.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I couldn't, and I had
And
no
14,
belief in myself that
I
I
had
could
2 of those.
be okay.
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
right. I can make this work. Everyone says
Yep.
I should. Everyone tells me why I should stay where I am. Okay,
Yeah.
I can make it work. I'll do it.
Well, and I think there's some self-sabotage there
Oh,
too,
gosh.
from and whether it's relationships or career or whatever the example is, right? Look at how much I've invested into this already.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like I've been here for 6 years already. I'm so afraid to start over, or I'm so afraid to do something different, or these are all the reasons why I couldn't possibly make that really dramatic
It feels
change.
like throwing away the last X number of years
It
of my
does.
life. The
Wasted.
14 years, the
Right.
9 years. Now I have to start all over. When I've already done all of this work, I have to start all over and do all of that work all over again somewhere else. I have to prove my worth to people all over again. And that
And you've
keeps you
built a
stuck.
life around that person or that situation.
Yeah.
And how am I supposed to survive on my own? I I
That's
have resources
scary.
that are shared. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, perhaps you're not in your family. Perhaps you're off on your own. Like, how am I supposed to do that? And then there's the whole shame of now I'm going to have to admit to all my friends and family that I screwed up.
Yeah.
I made a bad decision.
Yep.
Right.
And
And perhaps they said something at the forefront of this
might have.
decision.
I don't wanna
relationship,
hear, "I told you
whatever.
so."
That.
So
right.
I'll make
just
it
make
work.
it work.
Right. And that comes from the stubborn part too, right? Like,
sure.
I can't let you know that I completely fucked this up.
I can't
right?
let you know
Made
you
all
were
of these
right.
decisions when you've told me differently, and I didn't want to believe that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll cut off my nose to spite my face.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's so much ego involved in that. That is
And
not living a heart focused, heart centered kind of life. That is all ego driven.
Yes.
I have to be right. I can't be wrong. I can't let you be more right than me.
Yeah. And literally, how freeing is it to say, you know what? I fucked it up. I fucked up. So, period.
I'm moving on.
I screwed that up. Yep, I sure did. I'll own that. And now what? Right? So let's end that. Now what?
Chapter done.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in my case, I won't say this is for everybody, but in my case, living that way is what actually brought out in the end anxiety issues with me. And that's what precipitated me getting out of corporate America. It just became, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't.
The cons outweigh the pros
Yes.
at this point, and I'm forced into a position where I have to make some changes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that becomes the devil you know is worse than the devil you don't know. But it gets really painful.
Yeah.
Gets real pinchy in that space
Yeah.
before you're like, okay, for real, I cannot anymore.
It reminds me of a quote, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Oh, baloney.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Well,
It just damn near kills you. That's
right.
all it does.
My add-on to that is there's so much pain that you can actually tolerate before it truly kills you. And that, making you stronger may or may not be true. But Jesus, there's a lot of pain there.
The hope would be whatever doesn't kill you sends you in the right direction.
Right.
Like that you learn from that and go, okay, well, that path didn't work, so I'm going to go try this one instead.
Yeah,
And, and let's just see what happens over on that side of the world.
Well, so I like that analogy, the path. I mean, we at the very beginning of writing Side Saddle in one of our snacks. What does that mean to you? It's a path, right? But what I find really, really interesting, the older I get, the more I realize this. You don't have one path. It isn't.
No.
You don't have to choose that path and now you're stuck on it. You made your bed, now lay in it.
Right.
That kind of mentality is so destructive. Yeah, I tried that path. It was good for a minute, and then I realized,
I don't
I don't like that.
Right.
Or it was fine, but I want to see what else is out there. I'm going to go back and let me take a look at this path and that path. There are hundreds of paths laid out before every human. And you can try them all if you want. It's
free will.
And there's, yes, exactly.
That's
right.
part of why the introduction on my speaker website has all of those little weird things, idiosyncrasies about me or things that I've accomplished, is because of that idea. That we are all multifaceted people that have different interests and different paths that we've taken. And if you get to know that in a person, you find out you do have things in common.
Wow.
And you find out that, maybe I shouldn't hate you so much because we've had similar experiences and we've learned different ways to handle things. And, it's just when you define yourself by one thing, it's just not healthy.
It's so
No,
limiting.
It isn't. It is limiting. Yeah.
I was in counseling at one point and my therapist said that to me. She said, well, when you die, she said, is the epitaph on your headstone going to say world's best call center manager? And I said, oh God, I hope not.
Right?
She said, okay, well then you're not just a call center manager. What else are you? And that's part of where that description came from, is because she made me do a list of what are all the things that you are. What are all of the paths that you've taken? What
That's
are all
just
of
your
the
job.
directions?
That's not who you
yeah,
are.
and I defined myself as my job at the time. So
What a good exercise for
it was,
anyone,
It was
right?
wonderful. It was an awesome exercise.
Yeah.
So yes, you realize there's all different directions you can go. So,
sit
Right.
down with a
Try
piece
it.
of paper and add descriptors of who is Lisa or who is Heather or Tammy. beyond the surface of, oh, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living?
Yep. Well, and I feel like that's part of riding side saddle is you've been a mom all of these years, and you had paths that you had to follow, and you had people that relied on you, and it was always doing for others. And now you get to a point in your life that it's like, okay,
That's it.
yeah, now what do I
Now
get
what?
to do?
Who
Now,
am I?
Who am I?
Right.
And,
Gosh, I'm me.
and You're
But what does that mean?
What does that
right?
mean?
Bring that blank piece of paper out. What does it mean to be me
Right. Right.
by myself? All of the other
Oish.
things carved away. And that's scary.
it's very scary.
That would take me a while.
Yeah.
And part of it is you get to
gosh.
decide who you want to be too. You can say, well, I want to be this person. I want to be somebody that goes out hiking and really likes winter outdoor weather. But
Right.
so far as I've gotten is buying a coat. You know? That path will happen down the road a little bit.
Maybe in spring you'll come upon that path.
It's a good exercise to
I feel
get
like
to.
that path is buried under 6 inches of snow. So 6 feet of snow, whatever.
It's an exercise to dream.
It certainly
Oh,
is.
I love
Think
that.
of who
An
do I wanna be.
exercise to dream. So one of the themes that has been coming up a lot, especially during season 2, I think. Well, season 1 also, but it seems a little more focused in season 2 here with Riding Side Saddle is observing. Who are you? Being self-aware. That would be a great exercise to figure out, or start to figure out, or start to take a look at. Who are you? I love that. Being an observer of your own self and your
Yeah.
own behavior. These are the things I think I am. And maybe the next step is, and what are the things you do that demonstrates those things? I think I'm generous. I think I'm kind. Well, okay. Well, what do you do that demonstrates that? I love that.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So Lisa and I, several years ago, we did we had a little writing group. We did a couple of times. Yeah, 2 different groups. Lisa started one, and we had gone to participate with one, and that would be a great group writing exercise.
It was so much
so
fun.
and it would be a topic or a
prompt of some
a
kind.
prompt, right? And then you write for 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it is, and then you can, if you choose to, share what you wrote at the end of the allotted time. And not everybody does, and that's okay. But that would be a really good writing prompt. And you could do it by yourself, but how fun to do it maybe with people that you feel comfortable with. I
Right.
feel like that'd be really vulnerable.
I agree.
But maybe with people that you can be vulnerable with.
And who are supportive of you,
Right.
Because some of those multifaceted aspects, you yourself might not be able to see in yourself because you're so entrenched in that path, right? I'm a mother, okay, but who are you, right? Well, I'm mother to, my 2 daughters. I'm so and so's spouse or partner. This is what I do for a living. Okay, that's great. And who are you?
Right.
Right. Those are all things that are external. This is my education level. This is a hobby. Okay. And who are you?
Those are things you do.
Yeah. And I think that's how people often can get stuck. I don't know how else to think of myself except for how I relate to others in the external world.
I'm an employee. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but you don't often go to the other words of I'm kind, I'm generous,
Right.
Right.
I'm giving,
I'm inquisitive.
Right.
I'm intelligent. You don't define those because they're not tangible.
Correct.
Right.
So I can't put a good behavior with being inquisitive. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing.
Curiosity killed the cat.
What's good? What's good and what's bad, Heather? Really?
Lisa's a digger. She likes being inquisitive.
So do I. And I often get
I
met
do
with,
too.
would you just stop? Could you just once not investigate everything?
But I like doing that.
Right. I hear you're
like
a
to know.
researcher.
Yes.
I heard that.
Oh, I love to research. It's like a missed calling. Oh, my God. Love researching.
That's wonderful. So, so you were talking about, you had high hopes for yourself, as most young people do, right? One of my daughters was like, "Man, when I'm done with the school gig and I'm an adult, I'm living in LA in my mansion with my servants, and I'll have a room
Be
for
famous.
you." Yeah,
What are you going to do? I'll be famous.
I'll have a room for you, Mom. Right? And, I mean, fair enough. Who am I to say,
Yep.
no, that's impossible? Like, be more realistic. You had talked a little bit about, your journey, in that it got more uncomfortable for you, more painful for you to be on that path that was,
the
you were
should
given,
path.
right?
Yeah.
You were given, as opposed to the one that you wanted to take, and you freed yourself from, honestly. How do, like, let's talk a little bit more about that, just generally speaking. Like, how do people manage through the fear of getting from one path to opening it up to the open field?
I think a lot of it comes from if you have a support system behind you that tells you you can fly.
Ooh.
Or do you have a support system that tells you you're going to fail?
Yeah.
So for me personally, as I support people, I mean, like in leadership at work, I mean, I tried to be someone who told you you could fly. Like, I wanted to be a supportive person, and so many of us aren't, and we don't realize it because we're trying to protect the people that we love.
Yes.
And we don't want them to be harmed. We don't want them to get hurt. We want them to be successful. So we're well-intentioned in what we do, but that message is ultimately you're going to fail. And that creates fear for people. And that was my case. I had one thing, a dream that I wanted to pursue, and I told one person, one trusted family member that I thought would give me good direction, and I really valued his opinion. And his answer to me was, "Oh my goodness, but what if you fail?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You need to go to school. You need to get a degree. You need to make sure you have a job. You need to make sure you're employable. And what if you end up homeless? What if you can't eat? What if you can't make your bills? Like, you've got to think about this logically." Mm-hmm. So I always tell people when I do presentations that if you can't identify fear in your life, it's logic. If you're talking yourself logically into or out of something, that's probably fear. And in my case, everything he said made sense.
Yeah.
It often does, right?
Yes.
That's why they call it logic.
Yep. So
right?
his
Like,
ultimate,
is that possible? I suppose that could happen.
his ultimate message to me was, you know what, go to school, get your degree, make sure you
safe.
have a job and you have a safety net, then go and pursue your dream. And if you fail, it's okay because you can come home and you've got a backup plan.
Yeah.
So I went off to create the backup plan.
Oh.
And the backup plan just, it
Well,
just
but
blew up in my
that
face.
backup plan sucks you in, and now
your
it's a
whole life.
lifestyle.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So in my life, I didn't have anybody in my circle that said to me, "Go ahead. You might fly.
Right.
So what if you fail?"
Right. Then you'll come back home and get a job.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, would that be
right.
so bad?
Right.
Or, maybe your dream will turn into something else. Would that be so bad? Like, I didn't have anybody behind me that said, "Go and I will support you.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We'll help you do this."
Yeah.
I was out there by myself. I had to figure it out on my own. And
Right.
that answer was, okay, he's right. I'm going to
Go
go
to
to school.
school, get a
I'm going to
job.
do what everybody does. I'm going to take that path.
Ugh.
And here's, so I
I'm
went
gonna
off to
live
be
a
a
life
teacher.
of shoulds.
I went off to be a teacher, actually. I was going to be an English teacher. And I got into student teaching, and I couldn't deal with the bureaucracy of education. I mean, I lost it in student teaching. And I couldn't handle the fact that you had to let kids slip through the cracks. That, I actually had a student teacher tell me, "Well, help who you can and don't worry about the rest of them."
Oh, that's
And
tragic.
That is.
That was such
How deflating.
Yeah, and it flew in the face of my value system. Like,
Right.
I couldn't do that. So I gave up teaching, and then I ended up in corporate America, and that started me on my 20-year journey in business. That was a mistake. Well, I won't say it was a mistake. It got
You
me where I
learn-
am today.
Well, and you learn things, right?
But yeah, so I guess my advice to people would be is if you can be somebody that supports others, that says, "I'll help you figure it out," that's the best thing you can do for them. Let them go live their dream. Let them, do what they're going to do and just be there to help them figure it out rather than telling them how it's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're going to fail.
Right. Well, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it is, we also attach, I think, so both of those examples, you wanted to go live your dream. Lisa, you mentioned your daughter who wants to live, as a celebrity. And those are like, my dream, like that's so big. It is, but if you were to take that, whatever it is that you wanted to do, I want to be a painter, for instance. I can only do that if I can make money doing it, right? But what if I don't ever make $1 doing it? But I enjoy it. It fills me up. I go to bed at night feeling whole and complete because I finished this watercolor painting today that I've been working on, right? What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's filling your well.
Right.
But it's the percentage of time you get to do that versus the percentage of time that you spend doing the thing you hate.
Right.
To make the other good thing happen.
There is that.
And so if you can spend most of your time painting and giving back and doing that, and then just a small portion of what you do is working to make that happen, that works.
Well, that'd be great, but I'd be living in a box under the freeway.
But
right?
that might be okay.
Not in Wisconsin, it isn't.
There's plenty of people that live in their cars by choice because
that's true.
they want to be able to go travel and paint
is really
and
true.
do whatever. And I think that's the piece I didn't have. About 10 years after I graduated, I went back to do some recordings at my high school, and I asked my music teacher at that point. I said, what I wanted to be was a country western singer.
Yeah.
And I said to him, do you think I could have made it? And he thought about it and he really contemplated, and he said, I think you might have. He said, I can't say that you had what it would have taken to be an actual country western star or whatever. He goes, but I do think you at least could have made a living at it, singing at the local establishments and whatever. He said, so he goes, would you have, been big? I don't know. He goes, but you could have supported yourself doing it. Well, and I went, thanks for that.
Well,
great.
Well,
20 years too late.
Yeah. The other part of that is it doesn't mean that you couldn't have made it because some of those situations where you hear about people's rise to fame, that path was uncovered before them because that was what was supposed to happen. Right? Like magically I was, somebody happened to be at the local watering hole when I was, when I was singing. Yep. And just like that, my future changed. Right. So, yeah.
And I know now I wouldn't have made it. I mean, I've figured that out because I have issues when it comes to music as far as like I have memory issues. I can't remember lyrics unless I sing the song 20 times in a row.
Yeah.
I'm not a songwriter. And in today's world, you have to be able to write. Like, I can't visualize. I'm way too analytical and way too tactical to be able to write music. So I probably wouldn't have done well on that path. Yeah. So it worked out okay that I didn't go that way.
Right.
But I would have liked the opportunity to figure that out.
To give it a try.
Yeah, to let it be my decision.
Right.
Right.
I don't know. I know people who are musicians in a small, relatively small community, and they make a living, right? And they're not cutting their own records, maybe, but they're making a living, and they're making people happy.
You're right.
They're building one gig at a time.
They're building retirement funds.
Absolutely.
Right, to be able to.
Yes, for sure.
And ultimately, I think that's what it's about. Whatever you choose to do, can you do it to make other people happy? Like, that's where peace for me comes from. That's where joy comes from. That's where happiness comes from, is if you're helping other people. If you're putting something in the world that makes somebody else better off or makes them happy or brings them joy, that's where you get your joy from. So, you figure it out when you're 50 years old.
Sometimes, yeah. You start to, at least. Or you start to realize how much you just simply don't know.
Yeah.
That's at least where I am. Maybe in the next year I'll actually...
you have a year left. Less than. Clock's ticking.
Okay. Fast track me.
All kinds of fancy things happen when you turn 50, Lisa.
Yeah.
Great. I can't wait. I feel there's two messages in there. Could be taken either way.
My spouse has said that to me all along, like, wait till you turn 40. things are going to happen when you turn 40. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Well, things happen.
Yeah, they sure do.
Then let's wait till you turn 50. Things are going to happen. Well, yeah, okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, they're happening.
Dang it, when your spouse is always right.
Yeah. Things will happen, again, can be perceived so many different ways. They sure do happen. Thanks for being vague. Because
Right.
I appreciated the surprise. Oh, that's great.
That's funny.
I'm doing some reflecting quietly as you're chatting about it is not ironic at all. There's no such thing as a coincidence. But when we were traveling to this weekend, I was sharing a conversation with Tammy, and multiple times in a short period of time, I'd used the word, well, logically, this, blah, 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 blah. And it's not at all a coincidence that we're talking about that exact thing. Because as I reflect on that conversation, there was a lot of fear statements that followed my, conjuncting word of logically. And that's a lot. That says to me that, yeah, whether you realize it or not, you do that. You are that person.
Come from a place of fear.
Perhaps. And again, it's programming. It's the tape.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
It's how I've lived my
Conditioning.
life, right? To be able to say you have to be responsible, you have to, be successful, and these are the ways how. And
Well, if you make a sound decision, you go through that thought process, right?
but in the same beat, it sounds, I don't know. In the same beat, by saying those things, having that self-talk, you are creating it to be that way.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's
Fulfilling.
It's self-fulfilling and maybe self-sabotage.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
Squelches some of your
Yes.
anxiety is what it does. Like, it makes you okay with what you're doing, and the anxiety goes down, and then it's like, okay, I can live with this, and
Right.
I can move forward. Well,
right. And maybe you can,
know.
and maybe you can't.
No.
But then you're dug in 5 years or 10
logic
years.
has its place. I
Yeah.
mean, you're not going to jump out of a plane without a parachute on. Let's.
Right.
There's going to be some logic applied here.
Right.
But yeah, it all too often you need to throw that aside sometimes and say, you know what? Let's just see what happens.
And
Let's try.
and
It keeps
honestly,
you really small, that logic.
it does. But this is the other thing I was thinking. So, a great example is riding side saddle. At the beginning of this, when we were talking about it, and it was a crazy idea, multiple times throughout the process, and probably recently even, well, what's the worst that could happen? Like, let's just do this. What literally what are we risking? Nothing. More time to, be in the recording studio with my favorite person in the world. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, right? Like, there's financial investment is minimal. What is the worst that could go wrong? And even if you twist it, right? Like, well, gosh, what's the worst? There could be a lot of things that could go wrong. What are they all? Logically, right? Or, well, what's the worst that could happen here?
What could go right?
Yeah.
What could go right? Something else, again, because we attach value to things that are tangible, right? And money, right? Value equals money, oftentimes. So that's great. You got one season, and now what? Okay, so now what?
Yeah.
Why does there have to be a what?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Why
you just
why
do what
can't
you do
this
for
be
your joy?
right?
Yeah. That.
Right.
That.
We're programmed to believe you have to seek out success. You have to be better and bigger and greater, and
And success equals money. It's
Yes.
not.
It does.
This right here
and
in
it
this
doesn't.
moment is success.
It is.
Right.
Yes. Success
Why
does
isn't
not
why
equal money.
why can't that be the reason?
Right.
Why do you need more than that?
That's actually one of the ways you control anxiety if you live with it, is to learn that enough is what you need. I don't need as much as the neighbor. I don't need more. I don't need large amounts of money. I don't need huge success. I need enough. And what is enough? And enough can be very little.
Yeah.
It meets my basic needs.
Right.
That's
Well-
what I need. And I can be very happy at that
Yeah.
level. If
Everyone defines that
I'm
differently.
experiencing what brings me joy, that's what I need. I need enough.
I love that. It's such
enough.
a wonderful way to frame it. And to your point, like my listening to you say that is like, oh, that's supportive, that's reassuring, that's calming.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to keep going, keep reaching, that, you have to keep going, which is
I can
anxiety
make it work.
ridden.
Yes, right.
How am I going to do that? What if I can't? What if this happens? What if that happens? Do I have enough?
Oh, what if it's another one of those automatic negative thoughts?
Yeah.
You could do a whole episode on that too.
Oh. What if?
What if? It's, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to chew on for this, and in self-reflection for myself, because I'm realizing that I'm that logic person.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being logical.
No, there's not.
But when you let logic override everything else,
Yes.
I say this all the time. Anytime you're in an extreme,
Right. There's always balance.
yes,
Right.
it's not a good place to be on either end of the spectrum. I don't care what the subject
spectrum it is, yeah.
Right. Too much of anything is not a good thing, right?
In living with the anxiety that I live with, I've learned over time that it's leading with your heart. 9 times out of 10, if I lead with that, I'll be okay. When I lead with logic, there's something wrong.
That's interesting.
There's,
You're focused on a lack or a fear or
yes,
something
I'm looking
not.
for the what if. But if I just lead with my heart and just do what takes me in that direction, then it usually is okay.
Wow.
And you don't worry about the outcome, because I'm just going to do what makes me happy. That might not make my neighbor happy, but
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to stay in my lane, and I'm just going to go with what makes me happy.
I'm envisioning your backyard artwork right now.
I was too.
Makes me happy. I don't know what you think over there.
Yes, it does.
I love it.
The 4-year-old boy in the backyard, his parents may not like it, but
I don't know.
Stay in your own backyard.
That's what fences are for.
That's fantastic.
Oh, funny.
Awesome. Heather, thank you for joining us and talking about your own experience in finding your joy. And the strategy or the approach that you've taken to be able to do that, to fulfill yourself. That's enormous.
It is enormous. It's inspiring. Living a life of shoulds is not joyful living at all. There's no well there.
It's dry.
Never mind finding it. It's not even there. Don't even bother looking because you're too busy with your shoulds.
It's dry.
It is, well, it's completely absent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when,
Well, I have a
when
lot
you
to
say
think about.
should that much, you're driving to somebody else's expectation
Right?
instead of your own. And yeah,
gosh.
there's no positive energy there.
When I first became aware of the word should and how damaging it is, I was reading Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection. She talks about shoulds. And I was like, oh, that literally my whole day, my whole life is a should. No wonder I'm so unhappy.
That was my 20 years in
No
corporate
wonder
America.
I feel so much shame. Judgment and shame and hiding and being small. Because all of the, what the hell?
I
all
know.
these shoulds.
Anger and reluctance and sadness,
Resentment.
and grief.
And, yeah. Gets you stuck as a victim and, so many terrible things.
Replace should with could.
Ooh,
All right.
I love it. Replace should with could.
And even just a little bit, right? Like one step. Just
Right.
sit down with the piece of paper and say, well, who am I? I could be, I want to be, I have these, aspirations or these talents,
Sure.
these gifts. I could do this.
I think it could be even as simple as just deciding today is the day I'm going to rest and not feel guilty about the laundry that's not put away.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe I did all the other things on my list, but I can let the laundry sit for tomorrow. And I'm going to rest and not feel bad about that. It doesn't mean I'm a failure because I didn't get the laundry put away.
Yeah. I should do that tomorrow.
Well, so I think there's a balance because then you're headed into a whole lifetime of procrastination.
There you go.
All right. I think we can wrap this one up.
Thanks,
I have
Heather.
a lot to think about. My head is swimming a
thank
little
you.
bit.
I know, mine too. Mine too.
Yeesh. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Heather. Thank you for sitting in the recording studio. It is winter in Wisconsin, and it's not exactly, it's getting warmer in here than it was at the beginning of this session.
It's all the
this
hot air.
episode. But it's not really warm. So thank you for enduring the cold and sitting out here with us. And thank you, Mind Garden Media, Todd, for always putting our episodes together, being our editor and mentor, and
All
just
of that.
the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy behind the curtain. Thanks for that, Todd. And also thank you to our listeners and followers, people who are, joining us on this journey and reaching out and sharing and commenting and asking questions, even if it's, over text message.
Yeah. And give us feedback.
Yeah.
Give us feedback, right? Like if you decide to go through the exercise that we talked about today, we would truly just love to hear your thoughts.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to sit down with a piece of paper and think about myself.
Yeah.
Who am I? And do I like what shows up on my paper? And if I don't,
What could I do?
what could I do?
Yeah.
I love that.
Awesome.
All right. Well, till next time then.
Thanks.
Toodaloo.
Bye.
Bye.